All right, guys, and welcome once again to the Learning Life with You podcast with your host, Alberto Castillo, which is me. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all your support and love and all the amazing vibes you guys have given me so far. You guys are awesome and amazing. And thank you. It means the world to me that you're here with me today. If you guys have noticed, I'm actually not in my apartment making my podcast video today or making my podcast episode. I'm outside today where I live in Shenyang, China, where it is currently snowing outside in the park. And I decided to bring this out because one, we're gonna jump into this topic in a second. One, I was like, it's beautiful outside. And two, I wanted to test out my GoPro mod with the mic to see how it works out when recording these podcast episodes. Because if it works out well, I'll be trying to do this more, having this videos and just walking through the different parts of the city while I record a video with you guys and record a podcast episode. So let's see how this works out. And also, fair warning, I also apologize if the audio quality is not that great. We're testing this out at the moment. So for today's topic, I did want to talk about change. I think it's one of those topics that many of us struggle with, including myself, but also understand that it's a constant thing in life, right? There's one of those rules out there, those universal rules of life, is that change is constant, whether we like it or not. And we always have to be prepared for it because no matter what, it's going to happen. And it's also a necessity for growth. When I was thinking about this episode and wanted to talk about change, I guess I was gonna give you some of my experiences and whatever wisdom I have, right? But yeah, so I guess as I'm moving into 2023 and realizing that in the next 4 months, I will be leaving China from being an English Chinese teacher to just traveling for a while and just recording my projects and just trying to learn life from different perspectives around the world. It dawned on me that, yeah, dude, like I'm about to change what I know, right? What is comfortable for me, right? Into a whole entire different lifestyle where I'm just totally making a whole entire 180 into something new and different. And I mean, for people that don't know, and if this is your first episode tuning in to my podcast, like I came to China like 4 years ago, not knowing a thing about education, not knowing how to teach children, not even knowing what the hell was going to happen, right? I jumped in an airplane. Like I looked at Craigslist for an ad that said, hey, teach English in China. And then within like the next 2 months, like I was in an airplane flying into China, not knowing whether they're going to sell my body or not, right? But no, obviously not, or else I wouldn't be here. But if I hadn't committed to that uncertainty that I'm about to jump into something new, I wouldn't be the person I am now. I wouldn't even be here making this podcast episode. I wouldn't even be able to talk to you more comfortably, right? And I think it's one of those things that we always struggle with, that change, as much as we hate it, it is a necessity for you to grow. Like without realizing that you need to change, like there's no room for growth. Like you have to be able to push yourself to make yourself comfortable in the uncomfortable things that you might not want to do, and the uncomfortable place that you might not want to go into, and just realize that that's where your room for growth and your room for improvement is going to come from, right? So I was battling back and forth last year and even up to this year, right? Recently, I'm like, well, I'm about to go on to this whole entire new adventure. Like in 4 months, I'm leaving what is so comfortable for me, right? What is consistent for a whole entire new adventure. I'm gonna go to Georgia for 2 months. Then I'm gonna go back home in the United States for 2 months. Then I'm gonna travel around Europe for another 2 or 3 months, and just push myself to make podcast episodes and push myself to go make videos, talking to people, meeting new people, and making travel videos in my vlog, right? But at the same time, it's scary. I mean, change is scary for everybody. And I'm talking to you from my own experience because, yeah, it is scary. It's scary to push yourself into something new. But that's where growth comes from, you know? being able to realize that that's the only way that you're going to be able to grow. It's one of those things that you have to remind yourself, right? And also, the world is always constantly changing. When I was younger, we didn't have cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone that I could constantly talk to people with. I didn't have a cell phone where I can actually communicate within 1 second from here, from China, all the way up to the United States, or from here all the way up to the UK or to another country within a second, right? But that is what happened. The humans have changed, technology has changed, things have gotten better, right? And so that's the one constant that we have to remind ourselves. And I think that's a struggle for everybody, because at the same time, we do want to be comfortable with our lives. We want certainty, right? We want security. But I also think that might be a little bit of a facade, because there's no such thing as job security. There's no such thing as security. Things happen. Life throws curveballs at you that you're going to have to learn how to adapt and learn how to quickly solve problems, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to survive. And so as we struggle, and as we're coming into 2023 and as a new year, I wanted to remind you that change, although it is inevitable and sometimes it may be bad, it shouldn't always have a negative connotation. It should also have a positive connotation, in the sense that that is where you're able to grow, right? There's things that sometimes we don't realize are needed for us to grow. Like, we might have to change our environment. We might have to change our sphere of influences. We might have to let go of people and change our friends for a little bit and just figure out, well, who do I want to be as a person? And that's not necessarily bad. The thing is, too, is like, if you're growing, you're also changing as well, right? What was it, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I was completely shy. I mean, I still am, but like, I'm pushing myself more to be more comfortable in my own skin. Like, I feel more comfortable who I am as a person. I'm a gay, Hispanic, American, traveling around the world, and now I'm able to say I'm comfortable with myself. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, if you would have asked me that, I would have said, hell no, I'm not. You know, I'm not that comfortable. But being here, being in a different country, and having to learn from a different culture, and also having to learn how to fend for myself, really changed that perspective of just like, hey dude, like, this is what you need to grow up. This is what you need to do to grow up. And obviously, not all of you guys have the opportunity to go to a different country, to live abroad for 4 years and do something different. Of course not. But the thing is, you have the opportunity to do something different, to make something better of yourself, and to make something better of your life. It may be a small little simple change, a small little simple thing, where it's like, maybe instead of eating out so much, you start cooking for yourself at home, something healthier, right? Instead of just watching TV so much, you might want to go for a little small walk around the park, maybe 1 mile. Those small little changes create a ripple effect. It creates a ripple effect that continues to compound and compound. And it's a compound effect, right? Those little small changes allow you to create that bigger change that you want in the future, right? It's not easy. It's never easy. It definitely messes up with your psyche, because like, what you know, right, is not what you know now. It's not what you're going to know later, right? Because that's you who's changing. That's you that's changing for something better. And so remind yourself that although it's hard for you, right? That change is really hard. It's also not bad. It's good. I'm not saying all that change is great, right? But for the most part, most changes that you do for the better are always going to positively impact you. You know, what's another change that happened to me recently? Well, yeah, I mean, right now, while I'm recording this podcast episode, I'm actually recording this podcast episode outside in the middle of the snow in the middle of a park in China, which I would have never done like 2 years ago. But I'm more comfortable with doing so, right? But it took me a while to actually learn about myself and how to be comfortable with myself in my own shoes. But that's because I started taking small steps to that change, small steps to make that difference. And that's the thing, you know, you just have to make those small steps, so that way it creates that ripple effect or compound effect of you just continuing on to move on and growing from those changes. And don't think of it so bad. And also realize that it's necessary. You have to be open-minded to this change, so that way you're able to grow. Because if you're not willing to change, and you're not willing to to move on forward with this growth and be open-minded about it, you're not going to grow, and you're going to be complacent. And I guess that's also the thing. Complacency is horrible. Complacency is hard. Complacency destroys souls, right? For a while, when I was working in an office job, I work in an office job right now as a teacher, but it's a different type of office job, right? I'm actually able to interact and do different things. But when I was working in different office jobs, like, honestly, I felt like, I know it sounds super dramatic, so I felt like my soul was dying. I was completely like out of balance with myself, and I felt it, you know. I wasn't living life to its fullest. Again, and I know people have different experiences and have different things, but like for me, like, I worked in finances, I worked in human resources, I worked for a staffing agency, I worked in real estate, and real estate was actually different though, but we'll talk about that later. But like, I worked in other different office jobs, and I didn't feel complete. I didn't feel like I was following what I wanted to do. I didn't feel like I was actually expanding myself and what I wanted to do, right? I mean, those jobs had a lot of different traits where I was actually able to do stuff and learn from it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I learned a lot of like how to deal with different personalities, how to deal with children, how to deal with a lot of complex ideas and a lot of complex situations, right? But at the same time, like, my soul, truthfully, like, I was done. Like, I was over it. And I think it was like during the last year before I ended up coming to China, that's when I called it quits. Like, I ended up like leaving my white collar jobs, leaving everything behind, and just like I ended up joining as a security guard because I wanted to do something different while I figured out, well, what is the next step? And I had always known I wanted to travel. I had always known I wanted to go do stuff and learn from other people and go talk to other people. But I hadn't taken that step yet. And when I saw that Craigslist, right, or that Craigslist ad, I signed up for it, and it definitely, like, it pushed me to become the person that I want to be and the person that I want to continue becoming and learning from. Had I known that, I would have probably said yes faster, right? But it was that gradual step of like, hey, I know I don't want to do this. I know I don't want to go. I know I don't want to work in an office job anymore. I'm done. I'm tired of staying in these four walls. I'm tired of dealing with complicated problems. We're dealing with people's finances. We're dealing with people's employment statuses too, right? It was heartbreaking having to deal with a couple of different situations like that, you know. And for people that work in customer service, that work in finances, that work in staffing, that work in real estate, like, my commends to you, because it is a hard job, you know. Those are hard jobs. But by quitting, right, and taking that step and trying to figure out, well, what's my next thing, like, I would have never found that job, that Craigslist ad to teach in China. And then when I came to China, like, immediately, like, whatever I had learned from those office jobs, I put it as a teacher and just learned like that adults are just like children, right? Complicated, different personalities, different problems, but they're all long for a sense of belonging and love at the same time, and a sense of respect and just like empathy, you know. Everything I took from the office jobs, I brought it to teaching, right? And it also changed me as a person. Like, now, because I saw these kids as innocent human beings without anything, like, with a clean slate of just being human beings and learning themselves. And it taught me, like, how to be more empathetic, how to be more loving, how to be more caring, not just for the kids, but for humans, right? But had I not taken that opportunity, I would have never changed to that person that I am now, right? I did care. I do love people. I did love people before then, but I think it made me realize that I love humans more because of it, right? Now, just realizing that these kids are just here, just trying to learn life, because I'm one of those role models. I need to help them out, right? So, but had I not made that, like, I would have not changed as that person to the person I am now. I would have not grown into the person I am now and fill in those shoes that a lot of my mentors, a lot of my mentors, a lot of my teachers, a lot of my professors had shown me before that they had to fill in, right? As a teacher, as a human being, as an empathetic human being, loving and caring for humans. And so, yeah, it's just, those things compound, right? and they add up. And again, I know that some people cannot travel around the world, cannot change their jobs immediately, right? But just realizing that making those subtle, small changes help out and compound and compound and compound and add into a better effect to you becoming a better human being. And who knows, maybe you might find a new job. Maybe you might find a new sphere of influences. Maybe you might find a new group of friends that appreciate you, right? I don't know what you're going through. Everybody has different things that are battling. Everybody has different things that they have to overcome. But with that thing that will help out is knowing that you will have to change and not be complacent to where you are. Because if you're complacent where you are, you're not going to be able to change, and you're not going to be able to show yourself who you are as a person, push yourself to become that human being that you want to be and that you want to grow into. And that's where we're at today, guys. Change, it's inevitable, but change is what's needed for you to grow. Keep on learning, keep on loving, keep on caring, keep on being empathetic. Love your fellow human being. I love you guys. Push yourself. Don't be complacent. You guys are awesome and great. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. And if you guys like this podcast, please go ahead and hit that like or subscribe button down below. Go ahead and share this podcast with your friends where you were listening from, whether it's on the podcast, Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, or where you're listening to this from. And please, 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 you have the opportunity, please go ahead and rate this podcast episode as well, and rate this podcast show, because it would mean the world to me. You guys are awesome and great. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome. I love you, love you, love you, love you from the bottom of my heart. And remember, don't be complacent. Small little changes will add up to compound effects that will create the person that you want to be and to create the situation that you want to have. I love you guys. Thank you. Goodbye.
Learn Life with You was created in association with the Human Connections Magazine, a non-profit media organization connecting the world together. Executive producer and host, Alberto Castillo. Theme music by Delflex. If you guys like this podcast, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Follow us on your favorite podcast or video platform, and also follow us on our social media accounts at Learning Life with You. Or you can go to our webpage at www.learninglifewithyou.org. Thank you guys for listening. I love you. I'll see you next time. Peace.